The Apollo 3500 GT is a sports car with Southern flair. Its lines were inspired by the iconic cars of its age, such as the Jaguar E-Type, and in particular the stunningly beautiful Ferraris designed by Pininfarina. This enthusiast says the Apollo is a kind of American Ferrari and very rare. The Apollo 3500 GT was intended to provide an alternative to European sports cars, which were often very costly to maintain. This American Ferrari was also powered by an American engine, a V8. Its 3.5 liters of cubic capacity produced a sporty sound and more than enough propulsion for the lightweight Apollo, which weighed just 1,000 kilos. In fourth gear, the 200 horsepower GT could hit a top speed of 210 kilometers an hour, a pretty respectable pace back in the early 1960s. Andreas Graf says the goal was to create America's answer to the Ferrari using American technology and an Italian body. For the engine, they chose a newly developed V8 from GM's Buick motor division. The 3.5-liter all-aluminum engine was very light, perfect for a sports car. This engine went on to enjoy great success as the Rover V8 in various models, including the Range Rover, the Morgan Plus 8, and the TVR 350i. In spite of its mass-produced American technology, the Apollo can go like the wind. The engine sits far behind the rear axle and ensures even weight distribution. No front-heavy American cruiser, the Apollo is an agile and speedy Gran Turismo that's fun to drive. The Apollo's contours are inspired by Italian design, though it's anything but a Ferrari ripoff. Its design is unique, even if it does adopt many details used in Ferrari models in the 1960s. But that's little wonder. Andreas Graf explains that the body was made in Italy and the designer was Italian. Franco Scaglione had worked for Ferrari and Bertone before. The car bodies were shipped to the U.S., but the costs got way out of hand. So just 70-odd Apollos were produced over the course of 6 years. 40 are thought to be still in existence today. Andreas Graf spent years looking for his Apollo. During this time, he became somewhat of a specialist on the sports car and advises Apollo fans and owners around the globe. Graf says the car's technology is affordable. He says all the parts are available as long as you know what car they came from. He says that the tough but special thing is the body, which was handmade by Intermeccanica. The first 2 cars were made of aluminum, but then they realized that cost too much. After that, the cars were made from steel with aluminum hoods, trunk lids, and doors. He says it's an American Ferrari and very rare.
An für sich ist es ein amerikanischer Ferrari in irgendeiner Form und extrem selten natürlich.
With the help of experts and 5 years of hard work, Graf completely rebuilt his Apollo. He now owns a second Apollo, a 5000 GT, with the larger engine that was installed later. It's another restoration project. Finding the right internal parts hasn't been a problem, but replacing missing or damaged parts of the bodywork is far from easy. Handwork and improvisation are the order of the day. Graf says that in such a case, you must make everything yourself. He needed a rocker panel, as they're very prone to rust in these cars. So he had to produce one from scratch himself. At the front here, he had to install a part too, which he made himself because no replacements exist. Like the Ferraris of its day, the Apollo's body was completely handmade. The traces of this are still visible in the sheet metal today. Graf says you can still see the hammer blows on the bodywork, and that even when you're restoring it, you can't be too exacting. You can really see the difference compared with factory-produced or machine-made bodies, but he says that's how things were at that time. He points out a spot where you can see how the parts were put together and notes this is a thing of the past.
Das hat man halt heute nicht mehr in der Art und Weise.
In the end, the Apollo proved too costly to make, and production ended in 1968. But Andreas Graf still enjoys taking his out for a spin. Although the Apollo isn't yet a high-priced collector's item, prices for these rare models have risen considerably in recent years.